Hey, Krisstael.
Hi, Anna.
Me over in, where are you at?
Yeah, I'm in Hawaii today.
Hmm.
Again, the
I
weird
don't,
part is that we were trying to do podcasts for the last month and a half, and I was in two other places,
yeah, that's
Mexico
right.
and, well, three, Mexico, Texas, and Phoenix. And here I am back in Hawaii.
Back in Hawaii. So Hawaii must
Wait,
have that energy,
yeah, where
except
we
I'm in
did our,
Kelowna.
exactly, this time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um,
So I'm glad we
yeah,
could connect. And for all of you new to our podcast, this is Be Your Brilliance. And
yes.
Krisstael and I are gonna get into talking about money today.
Hmm.
Everybody's like love and hate relationship. I think people like talking about money, but it also brings up a lot of things around
It does. It's interesting.
beliefs. Yeah.
Very interesting how, I mean, it's an emotional topic. It's actually a
Hmm.
psychological topic, right?
Yeah.
Um, it's just dynamic, crazy dynamic. It's interesting. I know that we have our own personal experiences with money, wealth, capital, finance, but then
Hmm.
we also have a collective experience with community, like the cultural expectation, the community expectation, our family, friends, whatever,
Right.
our regional expectation, Canada, US, North America, what are we doing there? It's quite interesting. I know you brought up the topic earlier about wealth and what's going on in the perception of wealth right now, especially within our reference, which is a Canadian
Right.
and US reference, right?
Hmm.
So I guess the question really, a bunch of questions around it. Wealth is. I was going to actually let you know about. I don't know, maybe 12 years ago. I'm gonna have to pull up the content, but some of my friends that'll watch this podcast are actually the ones that participated in this trip that I put together that we nicknamed Epic, and it will be a movie, blockbuster movie
I think
eventually.
I've heard about this one. Yes, I wasn't one of the ones, but I've definitely heard about it.
It was epic. But why I bring it up is because, I mean, the trip was intentional to go and contribute to an animal rescue
Hmm.
clinic in Playa del Carmen in Cancun that got canceled. We turned around and we ended up. So I asked everybody who was going to go, "Hey, did you still want to go? If we
Right.
do, we're still contributing to some of these projects or animal rescues and so on. Like, I want the
Hmm.
trip to still be intentional to contribute." And so we had a videographer, photographer, hairstylist, makeup artist with us to do some content for the animal rescue and give it away, our animal clinic, and give it away. So they went with us. They still came, and we filmed the entire thing, like, at the airport and everybody
Hmm.
meeting, and and every single day, and a bunch of different things that we did, and um, had some photo shoots and whatever. But again, why I bring it up is because every single day, for some reason, we ended up, or I ended up initiating the conversation about wealth.
Hmm.
What is money? What is wealth? What is abundance? Because the trip felt very abundant. The trip
Hmm.
felt very wealthy in what we were contributing to. We were really gifting and contributing to the vitality and the wealth of these little businesses
Hmm.
and these animal rescues, and the facility or the house that we stayed in.
Hmm.
So the constant conversation around the dinner table and so on was, what is your experience of wealth
Hmm.
today? you know
Hmm.
it's so fascinating.
Which is
um
gratitude, right? I mean, it's
yeah.
it's also, wealth, obviously we can talk about that in terms of the monetary value, but it's also an attitude. Like it's a
Yes.
perception of how you show up, right? Which
Yes.
I think is a huge aspect of gratitude, right? There's days that nothing's changed in my life, but I just feel really appreciative for the things, the privileges that I have in my life, the things that I take advantage of that I don't often think about, right? And there's just a deep sense of gratitude that just makes me think like, wow, I am so blessed, and I feel abundant. And then there's times that nothing's changed in my life where I just feel like fear and panic and like, I can't do this, I can't do that, how am I going to afford this? And it's like nothing in my actual reality has changed. It's 100% what my perspective is.
Interesting.
And imagine, I mean, if we approach money that way all the time, what are we going to create? Right? Are we always coming from that place of never enough? I can't do this, I can't do that, I'm limited. This is only, if I experience any sort of financial success, it's limited, or we're waiting for the next thing to, the shoe to drop, so to speak. Or are we always coming at it from a place of, again, not just what actually tangibly is there, but deep gratitude for what is there. Obviously, I think that creates energy about allowing more momentum to create more and to have more, right? If we can't handle what we have, how do we get more?
True. I think what I'm experiencing personally lately on the topic of wealth and money and finances, abundance, prosperity. I mean, look at the place that I'm sitting in right now. I'm going to show you. I got to do this. I got to show you the background here.
Yes, please.
Whoever is watching this and not listening to this, this is where I'm doing this podcast right now. Beautiful.
It looks like a fake backdrop. It looks like a green screen. So perfect.
And there's not a moment in my life when I'm in experiences like this that I'm not in awe of, and coming from that place of like, I'm so grateful. I'm so appreciative. I mean, Hawaii did that to me actually the first time I ever was here. I was 21, I left, and I was like, how do I have what I feel here everywhere else? Because it is true abundance, it's true wealth, it's true ease of all of the things that you just naturally need, right?
Why do you think people can't get to that sometimes?
That's what I was.
Yes.
What has showed up for me lately in that is receiving money. There's an exchange. So if we just set aside money as the tool of trade and exchange, we can give, we can contribute, we can trade money for something as something we get tangibly.
Yeah.
But it's the question always is, how do we actually let it flow to us? Where's the resistance to have that wealth and that abundance and that capital and that money and that ease and that joy flow towards us? Often a lot of the resistance around when we're feeling scarcity, when we're feeling panic, it's because we've convinced ourselves we have to go get something. Right. We have to go attain it. We got to go grab it. We've got to bring it in. We have to control it. We have to manipulate it so it shows up in our existence.
Right. So you meaning when you're saying that, I was just thinking, do you think it's because we make that the priority? Like the focus is money as opposed to, like, is that what you're meaning? Like, because I'm so intentional about getting money, that's my focus versus being in the flow of the circumstances that might produce money. Is that what you mean?
No, I'd say it's more just in the concept of getting rather than receiving. So the difference between getting something and actually opening up the lines energetically to receive it,
So
it's like,
explain the difference. Like, so I can.
Right. Perfect difference. The difference would be, let me think about this for a second. For me anyway, the difference would be, if I want to make 50,000 in a project month, whatever, let's say I just want to make $50,000 and I have resources to do it. I have the talent, the capability, the resources, the people, whatever. From an atypical, ambitious, driven, career-oriented woman,
Right.
I would go, I've got to do this, this, that. I got to talk to this person. I got to do this. I got to go
Yeah.
I got to call Alana. I got to achieve the task list to go accomplish this.
Yeah.
And it should show up. So I have to manipulate things around me to go get that thing to come to me.
Right.
Where what I'm actually talking about is, what if there's absolutely no need to manipulate? What if I'm called to participate and phone Alana? I'm called, I'm guided, I'm open to that what I'm trying to attain, which in this case would have been $50,000, is actually already on its way to me. I just need to be receptive, be open to it, and walk into the inspired action, the guided action, to let that happen, to allow that to come in, rather than me thinking I have to control it. I have to actually do A, B, C, D to go get it. So I think that if I don't know if that makes any sense, but the difference between getting and receiving is honestly, it's an energetic spiritual thing.
The way I would explain, or what I'm hearing is, it's like getting is like feeling like it's all on you to like manifest this thing. Like you have a goal, and so, and yeah, you're resourceful and whatever, but it's like all on your efforts, versus, yeah, this is still the goal, but I'm actually open for it to show up for me, and I'm available and I'll participate, but it's not actually me trying to create it all, which I'd like, yes, please. I feel you on that. That's been a huge part of my whole life, is being the one to do it. Right.
Effort
and because you do it.
Result. Effort equals result. Effort equals result. What if there's no effort? What if we don't actually, what if the action feels so natural, it doesn't feel like effort? I had a very, very interesting healing session on this topic. It's funny that you brought it up, and I think it's interesting that we're moving into it a little bit this way, because it's been very pertinent for me lately about receiving, about a block, like the blockages, like what keeps people from actually feeling like they deserve to actually receive. And I'm not just talking about a person. I'm talking about a person. Then I'm talking about a business. Then I'm talking about the people, the business culture. Then I'm also talking about organizations, communities, regions. From that perspective of what blocks specific people, businesses, whatever, from the abundance of that flow coming to, and then contributing, coming to that person, business, whatever. So if we just kind of go back to the individual, the people, it, in my perception, it has everything to do with self-love, self-worth, like true self-love and self-worth. And it's not convincing, oh yeah, I'm worthy, oh yeah, I'm deserving, oh I'm capable, I'm all this. Trust me, I've been through all of this all my life. And it had been constant battle, and then making mistakes, and then feeling being a failure, feeling like I was a what do you call it? What do you call that?
Imposter syndrome.
Yes. Like, who am I to be doing this? Blah, blah, blah. And we'll get on another podcast about what I've just been through lately, because I really would love to share it intimately with everybody and you and so on. But I've been through recently, I intentionally have been asking my higher self, the God, the universe, everything to move me through this block. Like, come on, like, enough. I don't need to struggle through this anymore. I don't need to be the one to go to control this. I don't need to be the one changing, manipulating, whatever. This innate capability to deserve to live from a wealthy, abundant place with ease, like with no struggle.
And it is such a deep concept, right? Like, I think when you're saying like it going into like really that, it's not just a thought, because we all have the thoughts. Like I think most of us would say, yeah, I deserve happiness and joy and abundance and whatever, but it's what's playing on, unconsciously, that's blocking us somehow, which again, we don't know what we don't know. So it's sometimes hard to see. I mean, I
I'd like
think,
to oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
no, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I think, so I've read a bunch of stuff, the Wayne Dyers and
Right.
Brene Brown. Brene Brown's hit it right on the head when it comes to shame and healing
Mm-hmm.
shame for so many chronic issues.
Mm-hmm.
But also
Same with
with, pardon?
The Big Leap,
The
Gay
Big Leap.
Hendricks is exactly
Yeah,
about that.
such a good book. All these books on imposter syndrome and blah, 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 right?
Right.
But I think the biggest thing is when we are, because again, reading that stuff intellectually, feeling it, trying to feel it, be true,
Mm-hmm.
and then have it show up and manifest differently in our life. The only reason why that I know I've kept struggling is because of in retrospect, I'm like, oh, there's a pattern. Oh, there's another pattern. Oh, there's
Mm-hmm.
another, and,
Well, that's
I
hard
just
not to be in that space and blame the world or the circumstances or the situation, right? I think when things repeat, I often say this in my office too, is like, we look for, I think when stuff like that happens, there's something incongruent in ourselves which our soul and spirit know is not in alignment, is not truth, right? And it's affecting us physically, mentally, emotionally. And so I feel like when we go through an experience or a trauma or something that is not in alignment with truth, then, and that could be something traumatic as well, I think that we unconsciously attract circumstances and situations because our body really wants to heal it. It's like it really wants to get our attention. So then we keep, the hard part though is that inevitably reinforces it. So here is, our body's like, hey, we got to deal with this. So energetically, I'm going to find myself in the situation so I can deal with it. But then all I do is see, that's the way the world is. See, that's how, money happens or doesn't happen or whatever. And we just end up reinforcing it. So it becomes like an ingrained belief system. And it can sometimes be harder to clear.
True. And I think the simple solution to that is really just teaching people, ourselves and whatever, to see those as a gift for not being a reinforcement, but that beacon of light that says, hey, look at me, time to change, over
an
here,
opportunity.
hello. Yeah, right.
But that's not culture norm. Like, I don't think that culture would say it's, I think that's one of the limitations in, abundance and wealth, is that we have so many belief systems that keep us in that pattern of, well, this is the way the world works and you can't tell me any different, right? And it's like, okay, well, you can choose to live from that space, but what if it could be different?
I think that you've hit it right on the head, where it's all about perception. It's about also a desire, a humbled desire to be beyond where we're at.
Yeah, to change.
Do I want to hang on to this? Do I want this story to stay the same? Do I want to be here? If the only responsibility that anybody has is their own, to change themselves, to change their stuff. So I'm sorry, is it noisy? Do you hear people?
No, I don't hear anything.
Oh, amazing. This little mic's working great. And this little girl, cute little girl over here having a great time. I'm like, but
no, we're good. I mean, I got trucks in my back alley, but nothing's happened. I think you're totally right. And but that's when I look culturally, and I think it's, for each of us individually, and I know that's a big thing that I've been working on in the last few years, is like, how do I actually manifest all the things I want to create and not always, and be in that place of receiving, like opening up to it, just showing up without it all being on me. But I think a big part of what our culture has really encouraged, for all intents and purposes, is that disempowerment to say, nope, that's just the way it is. And we go into blame, and everybody's looking for something or someone. Oh, it's the government, it's inflation, and I see that right now with post-COVID, like, oh yeah, inflation is a real issue. Like, you can't print this much money and think that it's not going to lose its value. I mean, Canada has printed a lot of money in the last couple of years. So yeah, inflation's a real thing, but how do we not turn around and just say, well, everything's, blame it on the government, blame it on COVID, blame it on, this person who's charging so much money, blame it on whatever, my taxes, we could just go on a list of what all the reasons. But, to get in, like you said, deeper, it's really like, okay, sure, those things might be going on, but what are you like, how are you going to show up in it? Because you can't tell me that there isn't still people who are going to be millionaires and billionaires in the last few years and will continue to be. You still can't say that people aren't achieving financial and business successes regardless. I mean, some of the richest people came out of the Great Depression, right?
Oh, man, girl, I think here's the difference. I'll tell you this. You and I and my closest family and friends and people who ever want to follow me with this whole thing, despite everything, life is unreal. Life is incredible. I walk around the planet, in my experiences, in awe. I am absolutely not perfect. I have shit I gotta clean up. I have deficits and debt, and I've got businesses that I'm excited about that need my help, blah, blah, blah. All of this. At the same time, I find myself everywhere. So the only the result of my personal experience is my decision around what am I going to allow myself to be, see, have, envision, experience. So despite everything else, I'm like, okay, do I hang out in that mindset and have that experience? No, not for me. I'm going to love everybody I'm going to love everybody anyway. But am I going to participate in that? No. I'm just going to go be in the best version of my life that I can at this point and be humble in the things that I need to learn and allow the experience, but beyond scarcity to not exist. It's not exist. I know it sounds quite simplistic, but it is actually that simple. I think the biggest block are actually this. So here, I'll ask you this question. How do you feel about being given to? How do you feel about being taken care of? How do you feel about truly receiving everything? What's your feelings? What's your feeling words, Dr. Lambert?
Now, the interesting is now I feel relief. I feel peace. I feel contentment. I feel joy. But if you would have asked me that 10 years ago or 20 years ago, my ego would be like, well, but I got to do this. I got to create it. I work so hard to be a doctor. I work so hard to do well at school or, perform or, whatever it might be. So there almost is like my ego gets in that. What used to, I can identify that, was very much that sense of effort has to equal outcome, right? So if I'm going to put all this effort in, then I would be resentful against people who did no effort and things came. And I'm like, who the fuck do you think you are?
No kidding, it's true.
And that's such a bad attitude. And I realized that, because it was coming from jealousy and envy. And that's my issue. It wasn't because they didn't deserve it. It wasn't because it's not beautiful. And that's definitely shifted in the last few years where I can celebrate whoever and however, abundance shows up to somebody. Awesome. But it used to create a lot of resentment, which if I'm putting that energy into it, then of course things aren't going to manifest. They're not going to manifest.
They're not going to. Well, and even if they do, they weren't easy. They were hard. There was something.
Yeah. Everything was hard. It was a slog. Right.
Yeah.
So I think different. And I think one of I grew up in a home too. I think you really look at especially, part of the I guess the type of medicine that I chose to go into, being a naturopathic doctor, also meant I had to be a business person, which that was like a whole new world to me. I grew up with parents who had government jobs and pensions. And it was just very much in a box. And this is how, you just do what you have to do right in that box, and you might do well, but there's a box. And then to be like, my income is based on not just performance, but like all my efforts. Like, it wasn't like I could just walk in, even like at a medical doctor. Like, I could have went into all kinds of medicine. A medical doctor, I could just go and I'd have like an instant list of, how many patients, more than I could handle. But I chose a profession, not, I wasn't thinking about that consciously. I chose it because of what it was and what I loved about it, but I had no idea what came along with it. Mm-hmm. And I just was in that perception, I'm just going to have to work my ass off. Like, I just was like, I'm going to have to figure this out because I have no idea. Like, the first 5 years, I learned more about business than I learned about naturopathic medicine. Like, I had my basis, but it was like, I had to learn so much. Otherwise, I don't eat. Right.
True.
And I think all of us come at different backgrounds in terms of belief systems around scarcity, around, how much is available. Is it like a piece of pie and everybody gets a piece of pie? Or is it like it does grow on trees and it, that there's abundance, right? It's kind of like we always want to put things in a finite, there's only so much to go around kind of thing. And that's very much that I would say our parents' generation was exposed to a lot, probably out of a time where there was a lot of scarcity, like war times and things like that. Mm-hmm. But I think that that's created, it's not necessarily because my parents talked about money in those ways, but you saw the way they handled money, the way they spent money. There was what we did or what we didn't do, right? What was allowed, what wasn't allowed. So it kind of trains you early on. And I think a lot of us don't necessarily think about our belief systems and how that's influencing how and whether we're willing to receive, right?
It's 100%. I mean, our whole life is all based on our conditioned upbringing, belief systems, right. DNA, our mental, emotional stuff. Our whole existence, right. Our physical existence is just a mirror right. reflection of everything internally. If a person has the excitement around going, it's not a drudgery, oh my God, I gotta figure out this trauma, blah, blah, blah. But if they're excited about going, wow, that's a block there too. Mm-hmm. And what do I get to actually dig into to go figure that out and move it and shift it and change it? Then the process is exciting, the result is easier, it's all about perception. I actually have a tattoo on my shoulder that says, and actually it's the Hawaiian Islands. It says, paradise can be just a shift in perception mm-hmm. in every circumstance.
Right.
And that is a choice.
Mm-hmm.
It's a choice. Paradise can be mm-hmm. just a shift in perception. In every single moment, you can choose to actually see things
mm-hmm.
from a place of love, from a place of peace, from a place of joy, from a place of abundance, of which then it offers an opportunity for that to show up. Not that mm-hmm. it's inevitable, not that it's in the exact same time, but it always does. It always does. Mm-hmm. And I think one of the biggest blocks, I think, lately, in going back to wealth and money and receiving, I'm going to just say receiving in general, receiving love, receiving support, receiving love or money, and all of it is, it comes down to that forgiveness piece. I am not a piece of shit. I am not the asshole I've been. I am not the imperfect human being. Mm-hmm. I am me. I am worthy. I am deserving. I am just by a byproduct of being a human being. I am meant to be given to.
Mm-hmm.
I am meant to have it all. Have it
mm-hmm.
all. Mm-hmm. But where that block is that healing piece is, why do I feel like a piece of shit? Why do I feel like I should be reprimanded for being the asshole my whole life? Or at those times when I was.
Right.
Why do I think that I need to be perfect before that I'm going to be given to?
Right.
There's so many different things
that we got to punish ourselves. Yeah. It's like there's something we have to redeem, when the truth is, when we screw up, there is no amount of punishment that can redeem when we screw up.
Nope.
And so why suffer at all? Like, why put ourselves through the mental suffering of beating ourselves up and not, not feeling worthy, when there's absolutely, like, if we were truly honest, like when we feel really like guilt or remorse or shame, there's nothing that can, like, okay, if I just did this, it's kind of maybe like that Catholic, if I just said enough Hail Marys, it's that thought of like, then I'm redeemed. Well, the truth is there's actually nothing that, but at the same token, you're human and it's okay to make mistakes. And so that's where grace comes in.
Yes.
That's, for me, that's where God comes in, right?
Yes,
like,
it is. Yes, it is.
He's the only one that can remove that from me. And so I just have to receive it. Like, God's willing to forgive at any moment for anything if we ask for it and we receive it. The worst is we don't receive it.
True. I'll say this too, is it doesn't mean we get to bomb around the planet and be assholes and make mistakes on purpose and not,
no, absolutely
not see them for what they are, which is the gift to actually evolve, change, and grow and be the better version of ourselves. That's what they are for. And if we take them as that, if we take the mess ups, the mistakes, the imperfections, and we go, oh, hey, oops, I'm gonna use that as an opportunity to grow, right? And I'm gonna do my best not to ever do that again. But doing my best in not ever doing that again is actually just digging into the soul part. It's like, oh, okay, where did that come from? Why did I choose that in the first place? Be a conscious thinker, be an objective thinker, look at it, and then get excited about the resolution. Like, oh, and here's the other thing. Healing, for some reason, we've been taught that healing is hard, treacherous, that digging into trauma, that doing the work is actually work. We've been taught that. I'm giving up that. I'm like, no. Society can have that belief back. It's not mine. There's a little gecko. Sorry, I got distracted. If I can
Squirrel.
Hang on. Look at him. Where is he? I don't know if you can see him. Maybe not. He's green. Nope. He's hiding. Anyway, sorry.
Yeah, you know what? And that's part of when you say it doesn't mean you keep doing the same mistakes. Not that because we don't make the same mistakes, but a truly repentant heart, like a truly, like a person who's like, yeah, I screwed up there, and like owning it and forgiving ourselves for it is transformational. We're not going to make the same mistakes because we're not the same person when we actually truly like humble ourselves enough to admit where we've screwed up. That in itself will change who you are. So you're not going to show up the same way. So it's only when we're not, like you said, it's like saying sorry and not meaning it, right? Well, you're going to do it again, right? You actually have to fully be in a repentant place of, no, I'm truly sorry. And I have to forgive myself too. Then I will be.
Yes. So important. It is that self-forgiveness piece. I really like going back to Brene Brown's stuff, because when we go to the origin of the challenge that the challenge that self-forgiveness comes from, this has been my experience anyway, is shame. Like, why am I feeling shameful about whatever it was that I did in my 20s and my 30s and even last week or whatever? How do I work myself out of that piece to get to I'm deserving of love, even though I did that, even though there's those things, right? So that process or that experience, number one, I think is actually just looking at it, going, I can give that back. I don't have to continue to pull that with me to make myself feel like I have to be, what's the word? Punished, I guess, is a good word. Punished for the bullshit and the mistakes I've made, right? That constant punishment is my fault because I believed that I needed to be punished. And the only reason why I believed it is because someone taught me I should be punished. Whatever that was, society, mom, parents, teachers, religion, whatever it is, taught me I needed to be punished. I'm like, no. And that's okay. First of all, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to continue to do that. And then in turn, I'm just going to come from this place of, I love myself. I'm great. I'm worthy, I'm deserving, I'm capable. And because of that, thank you. Thank you, life. Thank you for the gifted people that are showing up in my life. Thank you for my family and friends. Thank you for the unreal opportunities that I find myself in going, what? How does this? Okay. All right. Good job, Krisstael. You know,
And
rather than, and that's that sticking piece when it comes to receiving. When we go back to the conversation about society and inflation and detriment to the financial world and what's going on with wealth and what is currency, what is money, what is trade, what is all this stuff. First of all, I tell everybody, if I can, opt out of the conversation, stop watching TV, shut off your radio, don't look at the news. All of that is trying to teach you trying to convince you that you're not as powerful as you are, that you need to buy into this bullshit that is going on the planet. And you can opt out. You can opt out of that perception, that story, that idea. Not that we're going to be naive and not pay attention to where we're getting our resources and our food and our and all our base stuff. But I mean, that's what is happening. That's why there's such a segregation. The segregation between the elite, I'm going to say the elite experience of life, the wealthy experience, the abundant experience of life, and poverty is literally remembering who you are, know that you're worthy and deserving, and participate as a person who is in that elite position, deserving, because that's the biggest separation between the experiences that are happening and what's happening right now, worldwide, society, all these like media influences. They know that the easiest way to mess people up is to make them believe they deserve to suffer in some way, that they're suffering, they deserve to suffer, that they are meant to suffer. What does that do? Creates poverty. It creates suffering. It creates everybody's idea and belief around it.
And if you're distracted with poverty and suffering, you're not powerful. You're not, you don't have means to take care of yourself or others. You're not influencing the world. You're too busy just surviving. So it's there's a real, I would say, nefarious objective to keep people in that position, because it's a lot easier to, the powers that be, to control, to make decisions, to do, whatever they want to do if we're coming from a place of being tired and sick and poor. Right. And I mean, that's the part 100% of, again, this isn't saying that people don't have hard things that they go through and financial. I mean, I've been there, I've gone through financial difficulties. And I guess part of, like you were saying, how much, even from the same perspective, obviously this is synonymous in any aspect of our lives, but maybe we made a bad financial decision in the past. But if we continue to shame ourselves for that or feel bad about that, we're going to continue to attract more situations. And it's like that self-punishment. I made a bad mistake and, I'm not good at making investments, or I'm not good at whatever, or I'm not good with money. So guess what? I continue to do, right? Because I don't feel like I deserve anything different.
Yeah.
And it's the messaging coming from outside, but it's also, we reinforce it inside through our experiences, unless we say, no, I'm not going to participate in this anymore. Like I have to, again, we come right back to that paradigm shift, or that shift in our perspective, which to me, I think about, and we've talked about this before, the difference between being rich and being wealthy. Rich is like maybe the outer expression of money that people will perceive as beautiful and wonderful, but how many, elite, athletes or, professional athletes or movie stars are bankrupt, right? They have all the houses and all the cars and all the things, and then they're bankrupt, right? Well, that's a definition of rich, where they actually don't feel they're deserving of that money. And so there's displaying money, and we think it looks so glamorous and how wonderful, but wealthy isn't about how much is in your bank account. Sure, with more money, we have more influence more affluence, but it's actually how much gratitude and appreciation do we have? What are we wealthy in?
Yes.
And the more that we have gratitude for what we have right now, the more we make room to bring some more into it, because it comes from a growth perspective rather than just this, we're constantly capping ourselves.
Yep. It's true. I think, but I have to be honest with you, girl, there's a real huge difference between talking about this, intellectualizing this, reading about this, constantly saying it to myself every single day.
Totally.
And feeling. There's a difference between that and feeling it. And I think that's the biggest block, is how does a person go from the intellectual aspect of this to actually feeling that and feeling it in the moments, like in my life where, I'm like, oh my God, I'm homeless. I'm living in my girlfriend's camper trailer. Whatever. There's perception around, in my perception of my life, there's definitely been times when I'm like, okay, abundance is not showing up at this point, or not abundance, but money, wealth, whatever. But even in those moments, I chose to see the gifts, the gorgeous opportunities, the perception of abundance and wealth, the gratitude, and then it shifts and it changes. But there's been a significant difference for me lately in the difference between thinking it and knowing it. Well, and I think,
I was just going to say that is the paramount difference. It's the same conversation I have with people in my office. It's the same reason I wrote my book. It's the same reason why I knew I was going to heal from MS, because it wasn't just like, I wish, and intellectually I understand why it's going to happen. It's just like, no, I know it. And it's a difference. It's like, way I look at it too, it's like knowing about God and knowing God, right? It's like, I can read the Bible and I can listen to podcasts and sermons and courses or whatever, and then I can actually have a relationship. And they're two totally, it's an experiential thing. I'm experiencing a relationship versus knowing about it.
100%. 100%. How does the person get there, though? How does the person get there?
That's where I was going to go. You first.
I'm just going to try and see if I can get somewhere where I'm not so dark.
Well, I think, I'm going to speak from my experience, because I'm not perfect and I'm not there yet. And this is a journey for me. I'm in it. There's things I've learned, but there's things I'm still learning. And I would say some of the things, how did I shift from that place of knowing, or moving into that place of actually feeling I deserve all the things that I desire to do and have and create. One is I kind of had to realize and know where I came from. I did need to go through that experience to know maybe some of the distortions I had around money. Like I said, my upbringing, that sort of thing, that was part of it. And it wasn't because that gave me the enlightenment, but it helped me understand that there was even something wrong, right? I feel like you can't go to the end of the line without starting the process, right? I knew that I was going to heal my body, but I had already gone to naturopathic school, and and it was changing my diet, and it was there was lots of things that I had gone through before I got to that point where I was I know I can. This is not my reality. So there's an element where I think you got to do some of the baselines around, you need to, I think, understand money and how you use money and what's your relationship to money, and are you a spender? Are you a saver? How do you, when you think about buying something, do you get excited, or do you think I can't afford it? Or what's the first feelings you have around money or spending money? Does it make you feel anxious when you spend money, or do you feel joyful when you spend money?
I have a question for you. Mm-hmm. What are some of the resources? Because I want to bring a couple up of my own, but I'm curious about what you have first. Some of the resources that have helped you change that. Books, conversations.
Well, I can go way back.
Okay. Okay.
There's the book Bust Loose from the Money Game.
Busting Loose
Way
from the
back
Money
when.
Game. Such a good book. Only
Uh,
in hard. Oh, it's only in hard copy still to this day.
Yeah, it's a bit old school now.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're thinking of books, I mean, obviously, like there's Rich Dad, Poor Dad, like those kind of books from way back when. But
the ones that actually, the one lately.
well, The Big Leap, I already mentioned. The Big Leap was a really good book for me. I mean, Rich as Fuck, I like the content of it. We've talked about that on a podcast as well. Just again, it's really about shifting the mindset. And I think there also has to be a little bit of, so tools are tools, and that's great.
Yeah.
But you have to be able to have some experience with money in terms of taking calculated risk, right? So there's always part of growing and changing and learning is looking for opportunities to grow in that. So it doesn't mean that we stay in our little box and say, I'm going to change how I feel about money. We also have to start looking at where are ways that I can grow or stretch myself a little bit. And I'm not saying racking up your credit cards and challenging yourself to see how long it takes to pay them off. I'm talking about responsible use of money. So understanding, like, obviously there's been risks I've had to take along the way with the business, from starting with, taking on a massive amount of debt to buy a bunch of supplies to, I remember hiring my first receptionist and I was like, oh my gosh, it's so expensive. But I'm like, no, I'm going to do it because it's going to mean in the end, it's going to grow my business, to hiring my next one, to, now I have 3 staff, like it's, and an associate. So it's like, there's risks on all of those because they all cost me first.
Yeah.
Right. When we think about that when you buy a house or property or in some form of investment, you're doing it. There's always an element of risk. But that's what I said, calculated risk, not because you know the future, but you know what your capacity is within it. Right. So how much is, like in any investment, I always tell people, don't ever invest anything more than you're willing to lose. Not because you're going to lose it, but because you want to be playing within the parameters that you have capacity for, and then work to grow beyond it.
Yeah, first of all, I agree with a variety of what you're saying there. I think the hardest part about, so what I do otherwise in my life, if some people don't know, and it's hard to keep track of what I'm up to, but even myself, I'm like, what am I doing? So I've spent 18 years in venture capital, mostly as a business analyst, business consultant originally. In the last 10 years, more on the VC side, private venture capital side. Developed a few businesses of my own, consultant on the most part, but at the same time, and then of course they've been successful and they haven't. And even right now, for the last 6-7 years, I've been involved with international fund, a fund that is impacts large infrastructure projects, or basically funds large infrastructure projects worldwide. So, and then international banking and finance. Also, in the last couple of years, got into Forex trading myself.
Yes.
So,
spend your whole day dealing with money.
money. And in all different dynamics, my own businesses starting up, businesses, acquiring businesses and funding businesses. And this isn't just North America. This is international and on all levels. It's a common conversation for somebody to say, oh, this business needs 50 million. Okay, sure. Let's look at it. Or even 100 million, 80 million, 180 million, whatever it is. It ends up, so the conversation is constant every single day for me. What I notice most often, and what I actually look for when I'm looking into a successful business model or a business that has the capability to do well, whether they're established or just starting, I psychologically assess the principles of the company. Number one, it has nothing. The business model can be amazing, incredible on paper. There you go. Here you go. and you give it to 3, 4, 5 people that are going to run the business, and their perceptions, their beliefs, their ideas around money and wealth, abundance, whatever, are messed up, and it won't work.
Yeah.
So I first
assess
the
hard way.
right. And again, we come to it in our own process. We come to it in our place. I'll never forget when I was assessing this one company, business, oil and gas service company out of Calgary one time. And it was a 3-month contract, and I came in, and then within the first week I sat the principals down. And the reason why I was pulled in was because there was an exit strategy required. 4 of the 5 principals were going to retire in the next 2 years. And this business had been run by these 4 gentlemen for 25 years, 5 of them for, I think, 26 years or something. It was going to be detriment to the company that they're gone, because they were literally the bloodline of this company. So I came in, and in the first thing I did in my assessment was say to them, okay, gentlemen, I know this might sound a little odd, but the first thing I'm going to need you guys all to do is read these 2 books. They're all looking at each other like, pardon me, like my financial assessment on the exit strategy, on the process of this whole thing in the next 3 months is, you 5 gentlemen need to learn how to communicate with each other. Oops. There might need to be a little bit more of a, if you want to do this well over the next 2 years, these are the holes. These are the biggest weaknesses that I see at this point. And it had everything to do with their personalities, how they didn't communicate with each other. They've been doing business really well together for a long time, but how were they going to undo their business? How were they going to what was their perception of exiting? Because they were just going to sabotage it if they actually didn't assess these things. Anyway, I'm always going back to that. Always going back to, no matter what financial circumstances, no matter what the money is, it's who are the people, where are they coming from, how are they doing it, how are they treating people, and truthfully, in all the funding opportunities that I have with the companies, I've chosen not to fund businesses that aren't developed by people that are coming from a place of love. We need a lot more people out there developing these businesses that have the true foundation of contribution and love, and then all the other talent. And there's lots of people out there. They're few and far between, but we are out there, or we are here, and they're easier to work with. They're the ones that are open to getting over the blocks. They're open to seeing themselves. They're open to moving through the resistance and shifting and changing, so that the end result of their business can impact people positively. Or product or service or whatever, and then keeping them in line along the way, because we can divert, we can get pulled off, right? So,
and you can get that magic formula. It's like gold. Like when you think about some of the people that you've probably heard podcasts and things where they talk about how they stumbled across their success. In a sense, it wasn't that they necessarily said, I'm going to do this. It was one thing led to another, and they were just following their passion. They were contributing in some capacity, however they are meant to contribute. And one thing led to another, and they just created massive successful businesses and lives. And how much more fulfilling, because you're doing it because it's not just what you can get in the receiving of it. It's actually what you're also giving. It's how you're contributing, how you're showing up, which is at the end of the day where we find fulfillment.
True. I think one of the things too is when we're not, when we're coming from a place of fear or anger, or let's just call it anything but love. You can pull it apart. That person in all of their success, right, financially, is never ever going to feel complete fulfillment. At the end of their day, at the end of their life, they're not somebody who's loved or liked or excited. People aren't excited about being around.
They're Scrooge.
They're lonely. Yeah, they're lonely. They're constantly having to manipulate to try and fill a void, to try and feel loved, to try and feel worthy and deserving. And it's that getting rather than being the person who is deserving of receiving. And it number one starts with believing it yourself, and then being
Right.
a person who is deserving,
Right.
being someone who's deserving.
And know that however that manifests,
Yeah.
I mean, the world's your oyster, create whatever you want to create, whatever you feel inspired to create. But the reality is no, not everyone on this earth is going to be a billionaire.
No.
But it doesn't mean that your contribution, your passion, your way of creating wealth in your life, whatever that looks like financially in terms of where you land in reality, is still important, necessary, valuable, like all of those things. I think, again, that's not not saying don't reach for the stars. But it's also recognizing that you can have abundance and wealth at any and every stage. Yeah.
It's already here. It's already here in every single moment. It's already here in every single moment. It's in every single opportunity. I always think to myself, who am I being right now? Who am I actually being? And do I like this person? Do I like her today? Would I like her, love her yesterday, last week? And if not, I just tweak things, change things, try and be more conscious moving forward. Forgive myself, move forward. And then who am I being? Who am I being? I mean, our podcast name is a perfect name. Be your brilliant, right? But the definition of your brilliance is the litmus test of who you're being every single day. Your brilliance is going to shift and change and morph every single day.
And everybody's brilliance is different in terms 100%. Of what gifting you have to bring.
Yeah. And what that shows up as, but every single moment you can decide, or not just decide, but decide who you're being. And I don't know, I think no matter how much money is in a bank account, how much opportunity there is, I've met a lot of people as I've traveled around a lot. I've met a lot of people with nothing. With nothing. And I have envied, not anymore because I'm just mirroring them. I had envied their happiness, their joy with nothing. Now, trust me, I'm not going to have nothing just so I can have happiness. That's for sure. That's not my journey. I desire a variety of other things, but it doesn't mean that I need that to be happy. I need that to be joyful, right? I think about dying every single day. I really do. I'm like, oh yeah, being dead, like 100% gone. I think about it all the time. I do, because I'm like, if I died today, how did I live it until? Who am I? What's the impression I'm leaving? Trust me, there's still some people out there in the last however many years, I'm going to call it 30 years, that I've bombed around the planet that I hope I get a chance to reconcile with, or to, whether they forgive me or not in some way. I don't need it, but at some point or another, I'm hoping that there's an opportunity to cross that bridge with some people, because I have been an imperfect human being, and we're never perfect.
Totally.
But at the same time too, going back to thinking about not being alive every single day means, how did I live today? How am I going to live? Who am I being today? How am I? Yeah.
Through death, through the recognition of death or seeing death, is really when we appreciate life. I mean, we tend to think we're immortal and we can always do whatever tomorrow, but it's only when we actually have that reflection that we're often like, okay, like, no, like I'm living right now, like, so live.
Yes.
And, we have one life on this earth. So
yeah.
How do we want to live? How do we show up in it?
Yes. And one of the things I want to just kind of loop back with when it comes to this topic we were inspired to chat about is receiving. If at the end of my day, I sit there and I say, who am I being? Who was I? Am I good if I die today, tomorrow, whatever, with who I've been? Um, why did I, for so long, not believe that I deserved to receive all the gifts, all the abundance, all the joy, all the ease and peace and grace and whatever? Why did I actually convince myself constantly that I didn't deserve that?
Mm-hmm.
And I should have given that up a long time ago. I just should have given up that concept
Mm-hmm.
and dug into it a long time ago. And truthfully, I mean, for me, I've been looking at it for a long time, but I guess if anybody's listening to this, it's like, just go ahead and get after your self-forgiveness piece, your whatever's holding you back from believing that you don't deserve it.
Mm-hmm.
Don't deserve to be the best version of yourself, to leave a beautiful impression if you died today, to know that you have lived being guided by spirit, by God. And it's just so much easier.
Mm-hmm.
So much easier. And I'm expecting that at one point or another, you and whoever else is listening to this is going to remind me of that when I'm having a shit day.
Mm-hmm.
And
This is recorded.
yeah, I know. Damn it. This isn't just us talking.
This is our personal accountability.
And yeah, honestly, it's actually a really good process. It's a good process because I'm like, whew, people can hear this. So
right.
Anyway, this isn't a therapy session that is in private. Oops.
Do you have any other tools or ideas of how people move into that space of knowing?
Yes, I do. Some are things that people will be open to and some aren't, I'm sure. What has helped me, number one book on the planet everybody needs to read, and we've done a podcast on it, is The Four Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz. It really just helps everybody live accountably, live from a place of empowerment, try and live those four agreements, even just for one day. It changes your life. So the Four Agreements is a base foundation to a relationship. Developing a relationship with self and then with others.
And if you haven't listened to it, go back to one of our podcasts and we have a full detail.
Full detail. Yeah, exactly. It's been very good. Other tools I would say is hang out with rich people that you love, not assholes. You know, people that are actually living in the way that you want to live. And for me, that is about who they are first, like who they are as a human being in an abundant, prosperous way. And then listen to them, be open to them, watch them, what they're doing, follow what they're up to, participate in the things they're participating in, for sure. And if you don't know, just go find people, ask and be humble, be excited about learning and then so the alternative things that I would say that are helpful, that have been helpful for me, is energetic medicine. Dr. Berg and naturopathic medicine, homeopathic medicine, medicine that is going to help me be beyond my belief system, ideas, the energetic blocks that I don't even know are there. Body talk has been a very significant, intermittent and significant healing modality that has helped me for sure. Yeah. And then
therapy, like all of those things are kind of, I think, on the same level of like surfacing those old beliefs that I do like timeline. There's lots of different ways that I think people can surface that, which you're right, 100%. Yeah, really important, because we don't know what we don't know.
We don't know what we don't know. And then teacher plant medicines. They have been profound, and the timing of the use of the teacher plant medicines have been significant, but also they're beyond when you're utilizing them in an environment for therapeutic use and with people who are clean and clear and their intent, it comes from love and God and so on, the universe, the ethereal. our gift to us, these teacher plant medicines have been here to really just help us lead a path of this least resistance. Like, and they'll show up when they're meant to actually show up. And there's a variety of them, and everything is different for everybody, but definitely has helped me over the years for sure with iboga, ayahuasca, bufo, flood dose of psilocybin from a therapeutic perspective. Pretty unique, and really has helped me get over the blocks that I didn't even know, that I knew were there. I just couldn't get over, you know. And there's layers and levels and whatever of the healing process, and then you go through your human experience, you're like, oh, there's another one. Oops. All right.
Totally.
Okay.
Oh man.
Yeah.
When you think you got to figure it out, there's something else.
Yeah. Oh,
you know, and I tell people that too, like counselors, like people always think that we go to a counselor when we're messed up. I'm like, no, counseling is part of like normal. It's like I go to the gym, it's normal life. I mean, don't go to a counselor as often as I go to the gym, but it doesn't mean that, and when I say that though, I always like to say it's not to say that there isn't a time and a place where maybe we need to process something, but I think having a counselor that has tools like we've just talked about, is really, really important. You know, having that ability. Sorry, my phone is ringing.
That's okay.
I don't want.
Yeah, I'll say this.
Being able to just to finish that thought. Having somebody on your team that you trust, that you can work on, because it is a layering. Like you might be like, oh, that was a huge breakthrough. And I have, somebody that I'll see maybe once every 6 months. And then sometimes then it'll be like once a month for a period of time till I work through another layer. But having somebody or a few people at different seasons and times that just help you work through those, because there's nothing worse than feeling an obstacle and being like, what do I do with it?
What is that? Yeah. How do I get over that? Yeah.
Right.
For sure.
And then you're like 100%. Banging your head against the wall, like, oh, I just got to think differently. Well, it's not that easy. And it can be so much easier if you actually just get to the root layer. So the thought's not actually there.
Yeah.
So that's essential. I think to have somebody to support 100%.
you. 100%. I'll say this, it's not even, counselors. I think it's the hard part about that word is that I think it's misunderstood, but life coaches, counselors.
Yeah, absolutely. It comes in different forms. Yeah.
Naturopathic doctors that are brilliant in Kelowna. That do secret things that people actually don't even know she does when you're not looking, and then all of a sudden something's fixed and you're like, oh, okay, thank you. Although she's really hard to get into. Needs to duplicate herself. Yeah, duplicate herself. But those tools for sure. What's very cool, what I find what's very cool is as you unveil yourself to yourself and you heal through these things, you start to attract a lot more people that are going to be that for you as friends, as family members, as business associates. Mm-hmm. They're going to show up as counselors in your life too. Like when you're hanging out with people that have been through it, been beyond it, and are working through their stuff too, they have some great tools and great things to share. Listen to some great podcasts called, Be Your Brilliance. And maybe there's some nuggets in there somewhere.
Spend your time wisely.
Right.
On Netflix.
Yeah, right. Listen to these two chicks just ramble on about things they're inspired about. Okay, fine. Whatever. Maybe there's some nuggets in there somewhere. But yeah. Anyway, in saying that, I don't even know what time it is. I think I don't want to keep anybody any longer than that. You and I can be, especially when we don't talk enough. Yeah.
I think this is great. I know we were we didn't really have a idea or a plan per se. We just had like, hey, I think we just need to talk about like money and wealth. This is how we teach our podcast topic. I just don't know exactly how it's supposed to come out. So you get to hear the answer.
And this is how it did, and this is how it has so far. So I think that's one thing that I really love about I know whoever's listening, if they are, honestly, this is not for you. It's not for you. Alana and I are doing this for ourselves. We actually just we're like, hey, we talk about this all the time. We might as well just record it. If it's good for other people, great. But really, truly, it's just for us. It's huge for me. This whole thing is actually just a big personal leap of vulnerability for sure. And
Yeah.
and I'm grateful that you and I sit here and go, we don't have to be perfect with this, and we don't have to have it so structured like everything else in our life. And show up. Let's try it.
Yeah.
So
And
I'm
if people like it and you're still listening at this point, then that's like bonus. That's like gravy on the
so true.
whole.
Thank you, and let's just hope you got something from it. But anyway, audience, if you're there, and Alana, I think probably a wrap up at this point. What do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah? I think we covered it all. Yeah. So get out there and make some money.
Yeah, no kidding. Heal your shit and get on with it so we can all be better for it, right?
That's right. Yeah. We need a lot more healthy, vibrant, abundant, influential people out there to make this world the world we want to live in.
Yeah, tip the scales, we'll tip the scales, have that, let's call it an elite society, not even be elite, it's just everybody.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So lead the
way. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. Okay. And till next time.
Thank you, Alana. We'll chat soon, I'm sure.